Ethan Hale woke slowly, pulled out of darkness by a low humming sound that vibrated through the floor and into his bones. For a moment, he thought he was still on the battlefield. His body felt heavy. His head ached. The last thing he remembered was fire, shouting, and the sky breaking apart as the alien fortress collapsed. He opened his eyes. The ceiling above him was smooth and curved, glowing with a soft blue light. It was not human design. Ethan's breath caught in his chest as training took over. He tried to move his arms, expecting restraints. Instead, he found himself lying on a wide platform, his armor removed, his body covered with a simple gray cloth. "I'm alive," he muttered. That surprised him more than anything. He sat up slowly. The room was large and clean, with strange symbols moving along the walls like living text. There were no guards, no weapons, no alarms, just silence and the distant hum of a massive ship moving through space. Then the door opened. Ethan turned, his muscles tightening, ready to fight even with bare hands. Two tall alien figures stepped inside. They were members of the Kareth Empire, the same species humanity had been fighting for years. Their bodies were thin and tall, with pale skin and dark eyes that reflected the light. Their long robes marked them as officers. "You are awake, human," one of them said through a translator device. Its voice was calm, almost pleased. Ethan said nothing. "You fought well on Valen Prime," the alien continued. "Your actions led to the fall of the rebel stronghold. Our commanders were impressed." "I didn't fight for you," Ethan replied coldly. The alien tilted its head slightly. "Intent is irrelevant. Outcome matters." "You served our interests." Ethan clenched his jaw. "So what now? Execution?" "No," the alien said. "Reward." The word made Ethan uneasy. The officer gestured toward the door. "We have prepared something appropriate for a being of your kind." Before Ethan could respond, the door opened again. She stepped inside quietly. She was not Kareth. Ethan could tell immediately. She was shorter, her frame slim, her skin a soft shade of silver blue. Long dark hair fell down her back, and her eyes were large, glowing faintly with fear and exhaustion. She wore simple clothing, thin and worn, nothing like the officer's robes. Around her neck was a metallic band, small but unmistakable. Ethan had seen those before on occupied worlds. A control collar. Ethan stood up slowly. "What is this?" The alien officer's tone remained neutral. "This is Salith. She is from a conquered species. She is classified as a servant, property. As per our customs, she is now yours." Ethan stared at them, then at her. Salith did not meet his eyes. Her hands were clasped tightly in front of her, her shoulders slightly hunched, as if preparing for pain. Ethan felt something twist in his chest. "You think this is a reward?" he asked. The officer seemed confused. "You humans value companionship. We have studied your behavior. This one is considered aesthetically pleasing among her kind." Ethan let out a short, humorless laugh. "You really don't understand us." He turned to Salith. "Do you understand what they're saying?" Her voice was quiet, barely more than a whisper. "Yes." "Do you want to be here?" he asked. She hesitated. Her eyes flickered toward the officers, then back to the floor. "My wants are irrelevant." That answer hit Ethan harder than any weapon. "No," he said firmly, "they're not." The officers exchanged glances. "This arrangement is standard," one said. "Refusal is uncommon." "Well, get used to uncommon," Ethan replied, "because I'm not taking ownership of anyone." Silence filled the room. The alien officer's eyes narrowed slightly. "You misunderstand. The transfer is complete. She belongs to you now." Ethan took a step forward. "I don't own people." Salith finally looked up at him. There was confusion in her eyes and something else. Hope, faint and fragile. The officer studied Ethan carefully. "Your species is strange, but very well. As long as she remains under your control, our laws are satisfied." They turned and left without another word. The door slid shut. Ethan exhaled slowly. He hadn't realized how tense he was until that moment. He turned back to Salith. "You're safe," he said. I'm not going to hurt you. She nodded once, but her body did not relax. Sit, he said gently, gesturing toward the platform. She obeyed immediately, her movements quick and practiced. Too practiced. Ethan frowned. He pulled a chair closer and sat across from her, keeping his hands visible and relaxed. My name is Ethan, he said. I'm a soldier from Earth. I know, she replied softly. The humans fight differently. How so? You fight to protect each other, she said, not to impress your leaders. Ethan smiled faintly. Something like that. There was a pause. Salith, he said, that collar, does it control you? Yes, she answered. It enforces obedience, pain, silence, compliance. Ethan's jaw tightened. Can they hear us? She shook her head. Not unless I am ordered to report. Good. He stood up and began pacing the room. His mind raced. He was deep in enemy territory on an alien ship with no weapons and no allies. But he also had something else, a responsibility. I don't know how long I'll be here, he said. But while I am, you're not my property, you're my guest. Salith looked confused. I do not understand. It means you don't have to obey me, Ethan said. You can say no. Her lips parted slightly. That is dangerous. I know, he replied, but I'll take the risk. For the first time, her posture shifted, just a little, as if a weight had moved. Hours passed. No one came for them. Ethan shared what food he was given. Alien rations were bland but filling. Salith ate slowly, as if afraid it might be taken away. You don't have to rush, he told her. I am used to scarcity, she said. He nodded. So was my people once. She looked at him curiously. Yet you became strong. We didn't do it alone, Ethan said. That's the key. Later, when the lights dimmed to indicate rest cycle, Salith remained sitting where she was. You can sleep, Ethan said. I'll stay awake. That is not efficient, she replied. Neither is fear, he said. She studied him for a long moment, then slowly lay down on the far side of the platform, keeping distance between them. Ethan leaned back in his chair, eyes open, alert. As he watched her breathe, slow and shallow, he made a quiet promise to himself. Whatever the Kareth thought they had given him, they were wrong. They hadn't rewarded him. They had handed him a reason. And humans were very dangerous when they had something worth fighting for. The ship never truly slept. Even during the dim cycle, a low vibration moved through the walls, a reminder that they were drifting through hostile space. Ethan stayed awake long after the lights softened. He listened, counted the rhythm of distant footsteps, memorized the sound of doors opening and closing far away. Salith slept lightly. More than once her eyes opened at the smallest noise. Each time she realized nothing was wrong, her shoulders eased just a little. That alone told Ethan how long she had lived in fear. When the light cycle returned, the door opened again. A single Kareth guard entered, tall and thin, holding a small device. Inspection, it said flatly. Ethan stepped forward without thinking. She's fine. The guard's eyes moved past him to Salith. The device hummed softly. Salith stiffened at once, her hands trembling. Ethan noticed immediately. What does that thing do? He asked. Compliance check, the guard replied. Ensures obedience systems are functional. Ethan's fists clenched. Put it away. The guard paused. You do not have authority. I'm the one you said she belongs to, Ethan said sharply. So if you want this to stay functional, you'll listen. The guard hesitated. Then slowly it lowered the device. Inspection complete, it said, clearly displeased before turning and leaving. The door shut. Salith exhaled shakily. Ethan turned to her. Does that happen often? Yes, she said. Daily, sometimes more. That stops now, he said quietly. She looked at him, fear and confusion mixing in her eyes. You cannot change their system. Ethan didn't answer right away. He walked over to the wall, studying the moving symbols. Human military training had included basic alien tech patterns. The Kareth loved centralized control, everything linked back to everything else. That collar, he said, it runs on ship power, right? Yes, Salith said slowly. All obedience implants do. They are monitored constantly. Nothing is constant, Ethan replied. Over the next few cycles, Ethan paid attention. He watched how guards rotated, how often the room was checked. When the ship shifted into faster travel, he asked Salith gentle questions, never pushing when she hesitated. Little by little, she talked. She told him about her world, now stripped of its name and marked as a resource zone, about families separated, about how obedience collars were used not just to control bodies, but to erase hope. They tell us resistance is pointless, she said one cycle, sitting across from him. They say freedom is a myth humans invented to comfort themselves. Ethan smiled sadly. Then they haven't met enough humans. During a maintenance cycle, the lights flickered briefly. Ethan felt it through the floor. What was that? He asked. Salith's eyes widened. Power redistribution, engineering decks. Ethan's heart beat faster. That means the collar is briefly less monitored, she finished, realization dawning. They looked at each other. Ethan didn't hesitate. He moved behind her slowly, making sure she saw every motion. I need to touch the collar, he said. Is that okay? She swallowed, then nodded. His fingers brushed the metal band. It was warm, alive with energy. Tiny symbols pulsed along its surface. Ethan removed a small tool from his boot heel, something the Kareth hadn't found. A simple multi-edge blade, primitive but precise. This will hurt, he warned. But only for a moment. She closed her eyes. I trust you. That trust hit him harder than fear ever could. He worked fast. He didn't try to remove the collar, that would trigger alarms. Instead, he scored a tiny cut along a seam, disrupting the signal loop. Salith gasped, her body tensed. For a heartbeat, Ethan thought he had failed. Then the collar went dark. No alarm sounded. Salith opened her eyes slowly. It's quiet. Ethan stepped back, breath held. Do you feel pain? She shook her head. Tears filled her eyes. I feel nothing for the first time. They didn't celebrate, they waited. Minutes passed, then an hour, no one came. Ethan let out a slow breath. Okay, he said, that's step one. What happens now? Salith asked. Now, Ethan replied, you decide. She looked down at her hands, unclenched them, clenched them again. A simple movement, but one she had not chosen freely in years. I want to help, she said. Others still wear the collars. Ethan nodded. I was hoping you'd say that. They began carefully. Salith knew service corridors the guards ignored. She knew when inspections were weakest. Ethan knew how to exploit systems once he saw patterns. They freed one more. Then two, quietly, carefully. Each collar disabled, never removed, whispers spread. Not through words, but through posture, through the way eyes lifted, through the way fear loosened its grip. The Kareth noticed something was wrong when a maintenance crew didn't respond to commands. Alarms echoed through the ship. Ethan grabbed a fallen weapon from a stunned guard. Time to move, he said. They ran. Salith led them through narrow passages, her confidence growing with every step. When guards appeared, Ethan stood in front. He didn't kill unless forced. He disabled, distracted, delayed. They reached an auxiliary control chamber. Ethan sealed the door behind them. What is this place? He asked. Broadcast hub, Salith said. It sends control signals to all collars on this ship. Ethan smiled. Perfect. He connected the hub to a human-coded override he'd been building piece by piece. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't permanent. But it was enough. When he activated it, the signal pulsed outward. All at once across the ship, collars went dark. For a heartbeat there was silence. Then chaos. Guards shouted. Slaves froze, then moved, then ran. Some cried, some laughed. Some simply stood, unsure what freedom felt like. Ethan turned to Salith. Go, find the others, get them somewhere safe. And you, she asked, I'll slow them down. She hesitated only a second before nodding. Then I will return. She ran. Ethan braced himself as the door shook under heavy blows. The Kareth thought control made them strong. They had never learned what happened when humans took control away. And on that ship, the idea of freedom had just been unleashed. The ship was no longer quiet. Warning lights flashed along the corridors, bathing everything in harsh red. The calm order the Kareth valued so deeply had shattered in minutes. Ethan felt it in the air, the way the deck trembled under running feet, the way shouted commands overlapped and failed. He stood alone inside the broadcast chamber, breathing slowly, forcing his heart to stay steady. The door finally gave way. Kareth soldiers poured in, weapons raised. Their movements were sharp but uncertain. They were trained to control, not to react to chaos. "You have disrupted Imperial property," one officer said, its voice tight with anger. "Surrender." Ethan raised his empty hands but did not kneel. "You built your empire on chains," he said calmly. "You should have expected someone to break them." They fired. Ethan dove aside as energy blasts scorched the wall behind him. He rolled, grabbed the fallen weapon near his feet, and fired back with controlled bursts. He didn't aim to kill. He aimed to stop. Limbs, weapons, joints. Human training was built around adaptability. Kareth tactics were rigid. Within moments, the room was filled with stunned soldiers and smoking consoles. Ethan moved before reinforcements could arrive, slipping through a side corridor and sealing the door behind him. He ran. Meanwhile, Salith moved through the lower decks with purpose she had never felt before. Freed beings followed her, not because they were ordered to, but because they chose to. Some were afraid. Some were angry. All were confused. "Stay together," she told them. "Follow the markings. Escape pods are ahead." "What about the human?" one asked. "He is buying us time," Salith said, her voice steady. "We will not waste it." They reached the hangar as explosions rocked the ship. Systems failed one by one. Without their control network, the Kareth struggled to respond. Salith paused, looking back toward the inner decks. "He said he would slow them down," she whispered. She turned and ran back. Ethan reached the engine access ring just as security doors slammed shut ahead of him. He skidded to a stop, chest heaving. Cornered, the officer from before stepped out, flanked by guards. "You could have lived," it said. "You could have enjoyed your reward." Ethan smiled tiredly. "You still don't get it." "What are humans?" the officer demanded. "Why do you reject power?" Ethan thought of Earth, of soldiers standing shoulder to shoulder, of civilians refusing to kneel, of history written in blood and stubborn hope. "We don't reject power," he said. "We just don't steal it from others." The officer raised its weapon. Then the ship lurched violently. Salith burst through a side passage, breathless. She saw the guards, saw Ethan, and did not stop. "Down!" Ethan shouted. She dropped as Ethan fired. Chaos erupted again. Energy blasts struck pipes. Steam filled the corridor. The guards scattered. When it cleared, the officer was gone. Salith rushed to Ethan's side. "You're hurt." "Nothing important," he said, though his side burned. The ship shuddered again. Alarms changed pitch. "Core instability," Salith said. "It will explode." Ethan nodded. "Then we're out of time." They ran together, no longer soldier and servant, but equals. They reached the hangar just as the last escape pod launched. Only one remained. They climbed inside. The hatch sealed. Ethan slammed the launch control. The pod shot free. Behind them, the massive Kareth ship tore itself apart in a blinding flash of light. Silence followed. The pod drifted, systems stabilizing. Salith looked at Ethan. Her collar lay dark and useless around her neck. "It's over," she said softly. "For them," Ethan replied. "Not for you." Days later, a human patrol vessel found the pod. Weapons powered up at once, but lowered just as quickly when Ethan's identification came through. He was welcomed back as a hero. Salith stood beside him, free but uncertain. "What will happen to me?" she asked. "That's up to you," Ethan said. "Earth doesn't force choices." She thought about it, about the stars, about her people still trapped across the empire. "I will speak," she said. "I will tell others what humans did." She did more than speak. Her story spread across worlds, across species, about a human soldier who refused ownership, who broke systems not for glory but because freedom mattered. Rebellions followed. The Kareth Empire weakened, not by fleets but by ideas. and everywhere the story traveled, it carried the same message. Humanity was not dangerous because it conquered. Humanity was dangerous because it remembered what it meant to be free and refused to forget it.